Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network. Talk like you've never heard it before is now talk like you've never seen it before. Alex Bennett's Ramble is now in video. Log on to Alex's Facebook page at facebook.com/abennett every Tuesday through Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern and experience the Citizen Panel like never before. We put a face to people like Phil, Patrick, Renee, Kevin, Tony, Jeff, Bree, Brian, and all of our regulars. And Alex is there too in his PJs. Just be glad he isn't naked. You can be one of those people who gets seen and not just heard by calling into Skype. For more information on how to Skype us, just go to gabnet.net. You can dress any way you want, provided it's decent. GabNet is now not just talk and not just a pretty face. So why don't you add yours?
Hi everybody, this is Alex Bennett asking you the musical question. What are you doing every Tuesday through Friday night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time? Well, that's when we're live with The Ramble. And The Ramble is a program of deep, thoughtful discussion, sometimes just wacky and goofy. It's always fun, it's always exciting, it's always stimulating. It's a lot of people just talking with each other. Yes, we call them a citizen panel. And we have like upwards to 9, 10 people. Sometimes we call it a full house, sometimes we call it a royal flush, and beyond that, just call it sheer madness. Anyway, I'd like you to join me each and every Tuesday through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern Time until midnight for The Ramble, right here on GabNet. Now, more than ever, talk like you've never heard it before.
You love GabNet. You love the hosts and the citizen panels. In fact, you wish you could take them wherever you go. On your computer, log on to gabnet.net, where our stream is available around the clock. On your TV, GabNet is available on Roku with the same around-the-clock stream, plus all the latest episodes of GabNet programs, old favorites, videos, and tons of celebrity interviews. When you're mobile, we're on your iPhone or iPad with podcasts accessible via iTunes or Stitcher, and that same around-the-clock stream on TuneIn. If you don't want GabNet wherever you go, well, the hell with you. Go ahead, listen to your old-fashioned talk shows that do things in the same old predictable way. Meanwhile, the rest of us will be having fun listening to talk like you've never heard it before on GabNet.
This is Jack Bishop, and I'd like to apologize for what I said last night on the GabNet program, The Intersection. If any of our GabNet listeners were angered or upset by my statements, I want to assure you that I will never speak so recklessly again. Please give me and my Intersection co-host, Amy Manuel, another chance to bring you thoughtful and varied conversation on our program, The Intersection. The Intersection is heard at midnight, Tuesday through Friday nights, here on the Great American Broadcast Network, GabNet.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GabNet, the Great American Broadcast Network.
Hey! Hello everybody, I'm Alex Bennett and this is The Ramble, and we go from now until midnight Eastern Daylight Time with a little program that we engage in certain things like what we call the Citizens Panel, but you'll find out what that's all about in about 25 minutes. But right now, one of our very popular features and one of the very popular people we like talking to. I never thought I would say that because, well, she's an ex-wife. Well, who do we have here, ladies and gentlemen? It's my ex-wife and the woman who kept my last name, but not the real one that I have, but the fake one.
Your first name is my last name.
You kept what? You kept my
your first name as my last name.
As your last name. Oh yeah, my first real name as your last name. Yes. I guess you could put it that way. How you doing, kiddo?
I'm doing fine. Finally out of the hospital.
Yeah. Now, but since we talked to you last, you were back in the hospital. Now, don't get terribly worried, folks. It was a bunch of stuff that was a pain in the ass, right?
Literally. I was in twice, 2 weeks in a row for 4 days each.
Yeah.
Because there was an internal bleed, and they put a stent in me. Who knew there were stents that weren't about hearts? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then a clot formed, but not one that could go to the brain or the lung, fortunately.
Yeah.
But they still had to go take that out. That was the second week, and figure out what to do with me. And now I am on blood thinners, and I wear this little bracelet the doctor said I should wear.
It says blood thinning?
So, well, I mean, you know, if I got hit by a car, then they know that I could bleed to death. They better do something quick.
Like what?
Stop the bleeding.
I mean, but how? If your blood's too thin.
Well, however they do when you get hit by a truck. I don't know.
You mean to say to me that all those baby aspirin I take every day don't thin my blood enough?
No, it's different for every person depending on what's happened to you. I took a baby aspirin until this started, and now I jab myself with a needle twice every day for a blood thinner.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Really?
I have a new skill, Alex.
Oh, you have a new skill? No, I'll tell you, my wife has the same skill. She got allergies, so her doctor said, well, you have to shoot up every day. Whenever you're itching, you shoot up with this stuff. And they had her come in for shooting up lessons.
Me too. I had them before I left the hospital. Yes.
I think the only reason they give you the lessons is they could tell you, well, here's how you do it, boom. But most people have to get used to it. The idea of inoculating yourself kind of...
It's not the best thing anybody ever tells you.
Yeah. So, I mean, I can't imagine how diabetics live their entire lives having to constantly test their blood and stuff and do insulin.
The brother of a friend of mine, they both live in Israel, was visiting New York many years ago.
Yeah.
And his brother, who's a friend going back 30, 40 years, said, oh, you really should look up Ronnie. So the guy came to my house, and we're sitting there, and we're talking, and we're catching up with life and everything. And he says, oh, excuse me just a minute. And he pulled something out of his jacket pocket, and it was a syringe, and he slammed it in through his jeans into his thigh, and then put it away and said, okay, we're all right now, having to do with his diabetes.
Man, I couldn't. Well, I guess after a while you just get used to it. I'm sure you're used to it now.
Well, it's been about a week and a half, and it took me a week. I do it at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., and I have to set alarms because it's not a habit with me. It's not something I've ever done. But they're terribly clever. I mean, I don't have to get it in a vein. It's just get it into fat.
Right.
And, of course, then they starved me in the hospital, so I don't have any fat practically. But there's some there to find. And it's... The first couple of times, it was really hot. You know, you hesitate. But these syringes are terribly clever how they're made. They're just there and, made with, and the stuff, the liquid is already in them.
Right.
But I have my own little biohazard red disposal unit now for that.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And when you're done, you push it a certain way, and a little thing comes out that covers the needles so nobody will touch it accidentally and get poked. And then I put it in my little biohazard little thing. They're big ones at the hospital, but mine is a little one. And anytime I go up there, I bring it with me, and they'll dispose of them properly. So I'm kind of used to it now.
So anyway, see, here's the thing. Now, Ronnie does, in case you haven't joined us before when she's been on, has a blog called timegoesby.net. You go to timegoesby.net, and it's about what it's like to get old. And it's a blog for older people to read, but younger people to understand aging, I think, as well. And the one thing that I've always said, now people always gripe about my show saying, why do you talk so much about health? And I'm going, because I've got a bunch of old people calling me, and that's all you ever talk about when you sit down to dinner. Dinner conversation is not any longer, it's not like, played anybody good lately? It's what kind of medicine are you on, and what kind of plan do you have, and what's your supplemental, and on and on and on and on and on.
Well, old people are sicker than young people first, to start with. The older you get, the more there are diseases of aging, and that's cancer and diabetes and heart disease and Parkinson's disease and 2 or 3 more, that far huger numbers of old people get those diseases.
So far, I don't have
people.
any of those things.
Well, good for you.
My feet are numb, but that's about it, you know. I mean, there are a few...
What's that from?
I don't know. I think it's a nerve in my back, a compressed nerve or something. But outside of that, and a little arthritis here and there, I haven't succumbed to any of those yet, you know. I'm told my heart has a mild stenosis, but that's nothing to worry about. So,
what does stenosis mean?
Hardening of the heart or artery or something. I don't know.
Well, if you go by the numbers, by the data,
yeah,
cancer affects old people in much greater numbers than younger people, and so do all those other diseases that I named. And the thing is that up until this happened to me almost a year ago, the cancer, I was incredibly healthy all my life.
By the way, pancreatic cancer, she hit the jackpot.
You're right.
You hit the jackpot on that one.
But they've declared me cancer-free for now. And so I'm trying to find a way to live my life without that little shadow. Cancer can come back, often does. But I don't suppose I can go back to what I was before because the consciousness is there. It's just there.
Don't we all live with a shadow, though, as we get older? I mean, I know I do. Every day I wake up and go, is this the day I'm going to drop dead? You know.
Oh, you were saying that when you were 20.
Well, yes, that's true.
Come on.
You know me so well.
By
the way, let me tell people, you do not want... I could have Marjorie come in here, and then I could leave the room, and they would just sit here telling stories about me. Oh, he does that too? Still does that?
He still does that?
Yeah. Never get 2 wives together in the same room. 2 ex-wives.
Have you ever done that? You've got
I've
more
had
than
that.
Marjorie and me.
I've had 2 wives, or maybe 2 ex-girlfriends, the same thing, in the same room, and then all they do is start slamming you. You just sit in the corner, and they keep looking over at you every now and then, with these grimaces.
Oh, you just reminded me.
Yeah.
Remember 9/11?
Yes, I think I remember 9/11.
Well, the guy that I was dating came to my house because he lived in Brooklyn and he couldn't get there. I mean, it would be hours and hours and hours walking, and he was in Manhattan. So he came and he knocked on my door and asked if he could stay there until he could get back home. There was no transportation. And it seems to me, I could be wrong, memory and old age, but he and I are sitting there talking, and next thing I know, there's a knock on the door. And guess who was on the other side of the door?
Who?
You.
Oh.
And you said you were in the neighborhood and you lived way uptown somewhere and couldn't get up there, and so could.
This wasn't. It wasn't 9/11. It was a blackout because I wasn't here for 9/11.
Oh, was it a blackout?
It was a blackout.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was at the office, which was on where was it? 23rd Street, and it was too far for me to go uptown. There was obviously no subways running because no electric. You can't have subways. So I decided to walk, and I couldn't. Did I call you first? No.
No.
I tried to call you, but the phones weren't working that well. The cell phones weren't working that well. So I just figured I'd take a chance, and I walked down to your place, and I knocked on the door thinking, hey, can I have refuge?
Well, then what happened is Stanhope was there, and he was a well-known news producer.
Very interesting night of my life, by the way, talking with Stanhope.
Well, this is what I meant. I might as well not have been there.
Oh.
You two were telling all of your media war stories. Didn't we go out for a walk in the dark and around the neighborhood, too, when we couldn't see anything?
Right.
But mostly you guys talked about all of your media war stories from all your jobs, and I just went to bed.
Yeah. Well, he taught me a lot of lessons also about television journalism that he had been through. And one of the main lessons he taught me, and that I use to this day when I'm in a discussion, is that in the old days when they used to do documentaries, like the Murrow documentaries and so on, he said they'd give us 8 months, a year to get that documentary together, and now you got to get it together in 3 weeks.
Yes.
Well, you can't do a documentary in 3 weeks. I mean, if you were
you
doing
can't do it well in 3 weeks.
Ask any nature life photographer, you could not do a nature life documentary in 3 weeks, because you got to wait for at least 3 weeks for that ant to bring the leaf up the hill. You know.
Yes. True,
So he told me all about that, and he, what he felt was wrong with journalism by that time. That it was you had to do it fast. You had to get it done fast, and if you took 3 weeks on a story, that was considered extravagance.
Stanhope had a byword that we would go to dinner, we're sitting around drinking wine or talking in the evening, usually politics or government. And of course, I mean, even then, pre-Trump, there was a lot to complain about. And the evening would be winding down and we'd both be getting tired, and he would always end it with, "Ronnie, nothing is getting any better."
Well, now my question is, and this is a question again of age, we say nothing is getting better because we've known another time that was simpler. Okay? But, I mean, are the kids today, when they reach our age, going to go, nothing gets better?
I'm sure of it.
Yeah. I mean,
Sure of it.
it's not that nothing gets better, nothing accommodates our needs any longer. Does that make sense?
You mean old people's needs?
Yeah. Well, I mean the needs of our age group. I mean, like I think of when I was growing up, and I didn't even have television when I first started out. All I had was radio, And then I had the early days of television where there were only 3 networks, and people were discovering the medium. And because they were discovering it, they were having little adventures, and the network said, do anything you want to. We don't know what this medium does.
Oh, you mean the producers and directors?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, yes, we know a better day, but for different reasons, probably because of the simplicity of the times. But, I do think about today, and I do think about kids growing up in this day and age and saying, how do they perceive it? Do they perceive this as being the good old days someday? And I hope not.
Well, they don't have a choice. This will be their good old days, just like our childhoods are our good old days. If you think of it that way, I mean, I just have been fascinated by being an observer of everything that's gone on through my life and how things have changed.
Yeah.
And it's huge. And you're right about media. There's so much more media. There's so much more entertainment, if that's what you want to call some of it. And there's no way to keep up. I just saw a story the other day that because we really are living through a golden age of television drama, that television critics there's so much good stuff they can't possibly watch it all anymore. Nobody can keep up anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen the commercials that I think it's BBC has a whole new pay service, so they're taking all of their stuff off of Netflix and other services, and they will have their own that costs $7 or $8 a month. How many $7 or $8 a month can you pay? I mean, Well,
what they're going to do is they're all going to become very competitive against each other, but people are only going to be able to buy a certain amount. So, I mean, like, for instance, I would probably not take the BBC pay service. Mainly because I know ways of getting it for free. But anyway, I do think the more of these there are, the more bootlegging is going to take place because people aren't going to want to have to pay for all those services.
Well, you can't. I mean, a normal person can't. By the time you pay your cable bill, although I know a lot of people are unplugging cable, I haven't figured out how to do that here yet. Still, by the time you $7 here, $9 there, I think Netflix is up to $10 or $11 a month.
Well, I'm paying $14 because I get the high def, the 4K service, so I get a higher.
Is it that much of a difference?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, even on your regular stuff, it upgrades it and makes it look much better. Oh yeah, 4K is worth it. But 4K costs as much as the old TV sets used to cost now. So it's not like it's an added expense. So if your TV set goes, well, the next one should be a 4K. It's not going to cost you any more than, You would have paid from the old days for the non-4K.
The thing is, television sets never die. As far vacuum cleaners die, stoves and refrigerators die. Television sets never die. I've never had one that died. I just wanted something different whenever I bought one.
Well, I had one that was dead on. I had one that was dead on arrival, but that can happen. So. But
I want to ask you a question.
But you're right. I mean, what they have no moving parts. That's the reason why.
Oh, okay. I want to ask you a question. Somebody asked me this, a brand new acquaintance I had just been introduced to a week or so ago. Asked me, it was a mid-aged person, 40s, 40 to 45. Said, "What do you do all day if you don't go to work?" Well, I just had to laugh. But I don't want to answer that yet on air. I want you to answer it for me.
You know something? I really waste my time. I really waste it. I come in and I potchkey around with the computer a little bit, and then I maybe like I do something like this. I do some interviews about this time of the day with various people, and that's my day. I mean, after we're through here, I'm going to get in a cab and go over to Costco and do my weekly shopping. It's really exciting. I mean, what I was saying the other day
do you shop a lot?
I shop I go to Costco and shop, and sometimes my wife goes up with her friend to Stu Leonard's, and I go with them up to Westchester.
I'm just wondering if it's genetic, because when your mother visited us once when we were still married in Manhattan, and she had grown up there on the Lower East Side, you didn't want to go with us.
No,
so she didn't want
to grow up in the Lower East Side. She grew up in the Bronx.
Well, that contradicts something that happened while I was out here on the day I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But she wanted to go shopping. You didn't want to go, so I have to go with your mother. That woman, who was then in her 60s, I'm guessing, walked me practically through every street in Manhattan and every damned store. And until I'm not a shopper unless I need something. And but she is. And then we ended up on the Lower East Side, maybe for lunch or a snack or something. And she would point out to me, we lived up there and on whatever floor in the building. And there's the grocery store. And we came around a corner and there was a pickle shop. She said, "Let's go in here." And we go in there and she looks behind the counter and there's a man there who's about her age. And she goes, "Moshi!" And he goes, "Ruth!" And they had gone to school together, and now he was running his father's pickle joint.
Well, they lived in the Bronx, but it could have been they started out in the Lower East Side and
Maybe,
then moved to the Bronx. That was upscaling it.
But she really wore me out. So I just wondered if the shopping thing was genetic.
Yeah, I don't know if the shopping thing is genetic. I mean, I'm not one of these people who likes to go shopping. If you want me to go shop for clothes, I don't even put the clothes on. I look at the size and hope they're going to fit. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to go into one of those dressing rooms and take my shoes off and my pants off to put on another pair of pants that I don't like. So I mean, So how often do you go wrong? Does it not fit when you get home? Well, I'm now married, of course, and she forces me to try them on. Okay. But in the case of the old days, most times, to be honest, I was making decent money. So if I went home and they didn't fit, I said, "Fuck it." Didn't cost me that much. Most of the time they fit. If there was anything that bothered me is once I had them on, they didn't look that good. They didn't have a kind of cut I wanted or something like that. But I mean,
I learned something new that you wouldn't know anything about. Women's clothes, women's pants, they don't anymore. They don't put enough pockets in it. They put no pockets in many of them. So you always have to have a handbag with you because there's no pockets to put anything in. And it's really, really irritating that all you want to do is go to the store and you've got to make sure everything is in your handbag. So while I was sitting there in the hospital 2 different times in the past 2 weeks for 4 days, when I actually felt good while they were figuring out how to treat me, and I had nothing to do except that I was plugged into 4 IVs and 8 monitors and cables going everywhere so I couldn't move around. I just had nothing to. I ran out, and the book I brought was too short, and I'd finished that in the first day, so I had nothing much to do. Just sit around and think. I'm watching all the nurses and the doctors, and of course they all wear scrubs, and they have tons and tons of pockets. They have pockets that fit cell phones, and pockets with scissors, and pockets with who knows what they carry around with them. And so when I got home, I checked online. And I bought myself a pair of black scrubs. Pants, not the top. And I've got a perfect size cell phone pocket on the thigh of one leg. And I've got smaller ones where you could put a driver's license or some change if you were just going out to buy, I don't know, ice cream or something. And they're perfect. They're just perfect.
I should get myself a pair of those. That sounds like they're great.
I do have a pair of them. I'm going to buy more.
Maybe I'll get the top too and make everybody think I'm a nurse.
Well, or a doctor.
Or I'll get a doctor's coat and I'll put some phony hospital name on it.
Did you know the length of a doctor's coat has meaning?
Does it?
Yes. That while you're still in training or...
Boy, what you learn when you get cancer. My God.
You have a short one. Well, let me finish. You have a short one. But when everything's done and you're a full-fledged doctor, then you get a longer coat.
Really?
That's how it works. Yes.
Son of a bitch. I didn't know that. Length is still matters, right?
You know, I'm spending way too much time with medical people when I start to learn things like this, don't you think?
Yeah. So anyway, and I hate going shopping with my wife because the way women shop, it just drives guys nuts. Just drives them nuts. Because you look at stuff and you look, do I want this? Then maybe you go and you try it on. Does this look good on me? I mean, it's a ritual. But with us, it's let's get the fuck out of here. I don't want to have to sit here. But anyway, you were asking about what I do the rest of the day, and the answer is absolutely nothing because I have nothing to do, you know.
And that's okay?
I'm getting a little bored of it, yes.
Have you thought about what you're going to do about being bored?
I think about going out, but then again, you know, I mean, I know how much you love New York, but New York has changed a lot. And it's not the exciting, wonderful place it used to be. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have the same love for it that I used to have. I don't know what to say about it beyond that. You know, so when I go out, there's nothing to do, you know. And plus, I mean, normally during the day, what did I do? I worked, right? So you really had something to do that occupied your time. So I do my work. I go on at 10 o'clock at night and do this little show, which is, you know, more and more making me realize that it is insanity because insanity, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again with the same result. And this is exactly what my life has become.
Can I tell you?
Yeah, your bandwidth.
It's
very strange. Let me tell. Hold on a second. Before you go on, let me just tell the audience: if she starts getting blurry and then comes back clear again, it's because there's some bandwidth on her end that probably is fluctuating. Okay, but we can still see you, and of course, the more blurry it gets, the younger you look. So you know.
Oh, I don't really care about that. Actually, I spent my whole life, as so many women do, taking off the same 10 or 15 pounds that accumulated and got us too chubby.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I always wanted were cheekbones. Look at me. I've lost so much weight. I now have cheekbones. I need to gain weight now, you know?
Yeah.
It's a whole life spent losing weight. Now I try to it's much harder to gain weight.
Yeah, well, the trouble is that losing weight is wonderful. I mean, I noticed how much weight I've lost, which is 55 pounds, and I looked at me the other day full length, and compared to the way I was, my face is more gaunt. So it's, you know, if you lose weight, but when I was heavier, it looked fuller.
It fills it out.
It fills it out. Yeah. So you know, if you want to look young, folks, just get fat. I don't know. Maybe that's the answer.
And you know what else? Everybody who's young will look at you and say, "There's an old person."
Yes.
Even when you're fat.
Right. Right.
But I got lucky about things to do because I started the blog before I stopped working for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I stopped working, I just segued into a shorter commute from the bedroom to the computer. And I still work as much as I did when I went to a job, working on the blog. And it's still, for some reason, after almost 15 years, it still engages me. So, I fill up my days that way. But there's plenty that I have to let go because I don't have time for it all. So.
Yeah. Hey, I just looked at the clock. We've run out of time.
Okay.
Doesn't it go by when you're griping about age? It just flies.
I don't gripe.
It's like
I'm so
life.
happy to be here.
It's like life. I'm always amazed when I look back and go, did that many years just pass?
Somebody sent me an email of a photograph of one of the downtown New York City streets from 1900 or so.
Yeah.
Or 1910.
Yeah.
And the headline on the email said, "This was only 100 years ago." And it feels that way now. I'm 77. He's about to turn 80. And 100 years ago, 100 years doesn't seem as long as it did when we were younger, does it?
No, not at all. That's why I'm glad I live in the building I do, because it's much older than I am. It's much older than I am. But anyway, see, I'm gargling now. That's the pollen in the air. Hey, listen, always wonderful talking with you, and let's hope that you don't go back into the hospital so we can do this again in a couple of weeks.
We don't.
So we can do this again in a couple of weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, something that's wonderful if you can do it, and I don't know if a lot of you out there can do it, talk to your ex-wife every now and then. Thank you, Ronnie.
Thank you. Had a good time.
Bye.
Bye.
Celebrating 4 years of talk like you've never heard it before, this is GABNET, the Great American Broadcast Network.
I love talking with Ronnie. I really do. I really enjoy it. And I hope you did too. And she'll be with us again in another 2 weeks, hoping that there's no other problems that keep her from us. She's been going through a whole bunch of stuff, but it's been coming out positively, folks. Coming out positively. That's what they said. That's what she said. Came out positively. Now, let's see here. Where do we go? Oh yeah. All right. Here, I've got the Skype set up here so that we can go to Skype in a second. Now all I have to do is turn the damn thing on, and then we sit here and wait and see if anybody's going to call. And I'm hoping that they will, and that we will have a really good citizen panel tonight. If you don't know what a citizen panel is, all you have to do is go over to gabnet.net. That's GABNET.net, not .com, .net, gabnet.net. And that whole page there is about GABNet. In fact, you won't even miss the show if you're watching it on video because it's playing there right now, okay? And over on the right-hand side of the page, it tells you all you need to know about the process of using the Citizens Panel, okay, and how to get onto it and all of that. What? What?
I gotta shut my thing off. I forgot.
You got to shut your thing off. Shut your thing off.
I'm so excited. I actually saw the little light come on the Skype. I said, I can beat him before he says it. But I still didn't do it right.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, in case you don't know who this is a regular citizen panelist of ours, the wonderful and attractive Scott Boddicker, who looks like something out of a Rembrandt painting every now and then.
That's the only reason I call in is for the compliment.
The compliment, yeah. When you tie it in the back, you don't look that way, but you do look like a Rembrandt. Yeah. So anyway, how are you, Scott?
I was good. I was out mowing. You say you don't have any things to do. You need to get a house so you can go out and mow the grass all day long and take care of stuff around the house.
Yeah. Well, I do stuff around the house here. I mean, I have little chores I have to do. Wash the dishes, empty the dishwasher.
I did vacuum. I vacuumed today also.
Make the bed. No, I don't do the vacuuming because she hires a cleaning woman to come in once every 2 weeks. Although we could stand to have this place vacuumed every day now because did you see, hello, Phil, did you see this thing on TV about this person, I think it was in New Jersey. It's a viral video and it's fun. You should go look for it. He took I don't know, what is it, a thing he was driving, with a hoe in the front or something. It was a vehicle that, what can I say, digs up holes and things like that. You know what I'm talking about? A tractor. Okay.
Tractor
A
with a front end loader on
it.
it.
Yeah. And he went over to a tree, and then he bumped the tree, and the pollen comes it's like a rain of pollen that comes off of this tree. And that's what we've got here. People are going out to their cars, and there's this yellow stuff all over their car. It's terrible. It's the worst pollen season we've ever had.
In the winter, you can't eat the yellow snow. In the summer, you got the pollen
You
yellow.
got the yellow, yeah, exactly. So, what the hell? This really, it's really terrible. And my eyes, every day I take it says a non-drowsy allergy pill, which makes me drowsy. I don't care. If it's going to take care of allergies, it's going to make you drowsy a little bit,
The years that I was affected by allergies, I used Claritin D, and it worked for me.
Yeah, but that puts you to sleep, too.
The D doesn't, I don't think.
No, the D only stands for, what does it stand for? Hold on a second, I'll show you something, too. It stands for, the D stands for, wow, I can't remember now, but it's one added thing, and it's the thing that makes it go behind the counter.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what. Maybe somebody who's watching. Nobody's writing on the chat line tonight, so they tell me what the D stands for. But
department.
Yeah, but I use this, and I really think it does not work. This is the generic Flonase.
Love that stuff.
Really?
I think that's for colds.
No, it isn't. No, it's for allergies.
Oh.
Wrong again, Phil.
Hey, I thought it was. Well, I've got my drink right here. But no, I thought Flonase, if you were getting the flu or cold.
No. You're thinking about some other stuff.
They say that stuff, it takes a couple of days for it to work. One squirt, man, it clears me right up.
You mean it stops you from getting the itchy eyes and all of that?
Oh, just clears up my nose and my sinuses.
I don't know whether it works or not, to tell you the damn truth. But all I know is I once got a prescription for it, didn't need it every month, kept picking up the prescription every month, and now I got like 30 bottles of the stuff in my closet.
Some, man. I love it.
Yeah, girlfriend's been trying it,
Yeah.
But you put 2 in each nostril.
Yep.
I haven't done it today, so we'll see if this helps a little bit.
But you remember the cocaine days? You would have loved that, squirt.
That would have cleared up my pollen allergies, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really terrific. But it is the worst pollen season I think we've had in years. And every year they say this year's the worst. So I imagine things are just getting worse and worse and worse. And, of course, it's all Trump's fault. So, but I mean, it just, why the allergies keep getting worse, and it may have something to do with, I don't know, well, you live in the country, don't you, Scott, basically? No, you don't? You live in a bona fide city?
It's a town, but it's, 250,000.
Oh, okay. But, I mean, do you live kind of like, how much room do you have for your house? How much land does it sit on?
I'm on a half an acre, and I have about 20 to 30 trees out here.
Okay, so
I got some greenery.
Yeah. So you're subject to all of that. Here, what happens is there should be no pollen in New York City.
Exactly.
There should be no pollen because everything's concrete here, except somebody decided to build a fucking park in the middle of this city, and it comes into bloom, and it's only 10 blocks away from me.
It all blows over from Staten Island.
Really? Yeah. But no, I'm 10 blocks away from it.
Wow.
In fact, it's so close to the wild, which I got lost in Central Park once. I got into these woods, and I actually got lost. I had to use a GPS to get me out of it. And, it's only like, 4 3 blocks long or something, 3 avenues long, wide, and then it goes down from 110th to 57th.
Do they still have the handsome cabs running through the park?
I don't know. I haven't gone in there in a long time, to tell you the truth. I hope they get rid of the horses. I think it's cruel, and I think I think it's cruel. I'm one of those people that's all for getting rid of the horses. What?
It gives them something to do, unlike you, who, you know, when you were confessing to Ronnie that you had nothing to do.
Well, I have nothing to do, you know. Yeah. I'm very close to suicide. I have so little to do.
Yeah.
Because killing myself would be something to do.
Yeah. Just don't do it on the road.
What's my plan for today? Well, we'll post the shows, and we'll do this, and we'll do that, and then at 3 o'clock I'll shoot myself. Good. That's a good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can always have a future in floor covering sales.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Then you'll really want to shoot yourself.
Yeah, I imagine. Yeah.
No, Alex, don't kill yourself in the apartment. Go down to Washington and do us a favor.
What do you mean?
A favor. I can't say it because they might be listening.
Oh, I see. You're suggesting that
I suggested anything. Just do us a favor.
That I do suicide by cop?
No. No.
Those guys can't even get themselves shot. The guys who want suicide by cop. You know, but just tell them you're black. Raise your hands.
I'll tell you one guy who did it like went out like he wanted to go out. He was dying of some horrible disease, like cancer or something, you know.
Yeah.
And he was going to be dead in like a month or so, and it was going to be a painful death. So he wanted to commit suicide. But he figured the best way to do it was years earlier his life had been made miserable by I think a judge in Marin County or something, or a district attorney.
Yeah.
So he went out and killed him. Oh. And then they shot him. Ta-da!
You know, my friend Steve that called the show, he's actually killed 7 people. And his first one was a suicide by cop when he was in Porterville PD. Mm-hmm. He made entry and...
How do you live with yourself killing 7 people?
Well, they were going to kill him. You know, he was...
well, maybe then he shouldn't have put himself in that position.
Well, that's his job. He was SWAT.
Well, but the fact that you know that that's a possibility and then you don't mind that that's a possibility, there's something wrong with that.
You know, early on, I decided that if push came to shove, that I was coming home at night and so was my partner. And I created mental mindset to where I knew I could do it if confronted to the situation.
Well, that's very nice, but I just think that I would never put myself in a situation where I had to kill somebody in order to survive. Oh,
you wouldn't be a cop.
No, I definitely wouldn't be a cop. I wouldn't be a cop for any number of reasons. First of all, I think they're kind of like the prison guards here, and they're always what?
I don't think prison guards carry guns for the most part. Only the guys up on the tier.
No, you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, that they're not here protecting me. They're not here protecting Scott. They're here protecting property.
Yeah.
And that's all you're here for. That's the main thing. Somebody steals something, if they run away with a TV set, some cops will shoot them in the back and kill them.
Well, take for instance, it's a domestic dispute, and you're called in.
Well, now we're taking it away from what I was saying.
Right.
Domestic disputes are entirely different situations. I hear police hate them because they consider them the most dangerous calls they can go on.
That's how it happened. The guy had the wife hostage. Then he draws down on Steve. Steve shot him. You know, what's he going to do?
Why didn't he shoot for the leg? Why didn't he shoot for the arm? Why didn't he shoot for...
You need, if you're going to go to deadly force, it's called deadly force for a reason. You want to stop the threat. If you hit him in the leg, he can still shoot you. So if you're in a position where you have to use deadly force...
I don't know. I've never taken a bullet to the leg, okay? Yeah. But I think if somebody shot me in the leg, any hostility I have wouldn't be rationally meted out in saying, oh, well, now I'm going to shoot him back. I'm going to go, motherfucker.
That's because you're not on PCP. But if you're on PCP, some of these guys.
Well, where do I get some of that shit?
There's no pain. You know, they smoke it a lot of times. They call it Sherms. Remember, you smoked Sherman cigarettes? Yeah. Well, they used to take the Sherman cigarettes and lace them with PCP, smoke it, and they call it "I'm going to have a Sherm." that's
really?
What they use.
Wow. Okay. Now, where in the world is Jeff? I can tell he's home now. I can tell by the background.
That looks familiar, right?
Yeah, Jeff is home. In Connecticut.
It is.
Yeah. How was your trip?
It was great. It was quite interesting.
Yeah.
Santa Barbara, beautiful.
I've been there like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody says it's a real rich town now, and I believe it.
Yeah.
If you want to live there, you got to be rich. You know, it's very expensive.
Yeah. It was always kind of an expensive town. I mean, it was one of the ritzier enclaves in Southern California.
People from Los Angeles have second homes there, and in millions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Right up on the mountains and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can see the water.
The place to live here in New York, of course, is Harlem.
That's the place.
Yeah, I tell you, it's getting that way though. It's hello, Kevin. Hello, Kevin. How was your weekend?
Good. How was yours?
I did nothing. I stayed inside a lot. And Sunday, girlfriend was still sick, and she sat in watching movies all day long on TV. And for some reason, it got to be 6 o'clock, and I said, "Why the fuck didn't we do anything today?"
I hate that.
I binge watched two things: Flint and the new Punisher series.
Oh, I couldn't get through more than 3 episodes of the Punisher series.
Really? Oh, I saw all 11. I think
I couldn't get through the first 3. After 3, I was it was like I then went to 4, and I kept starting 4 over and over again because other things would occupy my interest, and finally I never got to 4.
I enjoyed that. And then Flint is a Russian 4-part. It's in Russian, but they have subtitles, and it's
I would hope so.
It's basically the Rambo of Russia, and it was pretty good. It was like First Blood, so it was a ripoff of First Blood.
Marjorie loves binge watching, and I find it a waste of time. Unless it's something that I think is going to be really good, because the reason I never read novels, let me tell you why I never read novels, is because I said to myself, if I ever started a novel and then I read the whole thing and it sucked, I had just wasted a week or so reading a bad novel. Now, a book with like facts and figures in it, I enjoy those things about history where I can skip through and go to certain parts in history. It's okay. I know it's not going to waste my time, but a novel will if it sucks.
Well, I got new internet service yesterday, and I went to a company called Wave. It used to be Astound. Okay. So I have 1 gig down and 10 up right now, but I'm going to increase it to 30.
Wait a minute. 1 gig up and 10 down.
Yeah, no, 10 up and 1 gig down. So
10 gigs up.
Yeah.
No.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
10 meg. Huh? 10 meg up.
10 meg.
10 meg up, and how many down?
1 gig.
1 gig down. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Because
why
is it so uneven?
I don't know.
I mean, you
download.
It's not what you call it, the
fiber,
glass.
Fiber, but even the non-fiber, like the cable version here in New York, that Spectrum says they're offering 200 up and down on cable.
Yeah, well, they don't have that out here in California yet, but at least in my area. But the thing is, when I'm watching Netflix, you push the button and boom, it's downloaded. You don't have to wait while the circle goes. It's
well,
a lot
it doesn't
faster.
download; it streams. You don't download the whole movie. Yeah, but I find that I never have trouble that way. A few times maybe when there's something went wrong with the system or something like that. But the great part is that if you have decent throughput like that, eventually you get to the point where you could have several people watching Netflix in the house at the same time and not put any strain on your system.
Yeah.
Like here, I can upload and download stuff, and she can be watching Netflix, and I'm fine. Here, when I upload stuff to the server, it used to take me, like when I send my show up to the server, it would take a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Now it takes like 5 seconds. Is it zip?
Yeah. Well, the guy told me for $5 more I can get 30 up. So I said, okay, I'll do that.
How much more?
$5 more.
Oh, I'd do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
I would do it. Yeah.
But it seems to have made a difference in the viewing experience.
Oh, of course. Of course. I mean, that's why a lot of these places now in a lot of cities, like, what do you have, Scott, where you are? They probably don't.
I just have Spectrum, and I don't even know what the up and down is. It's pretty good. I'm just pretty much here myself now. Just the wife and I. All the kids are gone, so we don't have much crowding.
Yeah, but you don't have any problem with watching Netflix or whatever?
Not too much. Sometimes I get troubles, listening to you guys when I got both computers going and the Skype. It gets a little.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that has something more to do with the fact you're using two computers. It doesn't have to do as much with bandwidth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've gotten to the point where I don't know any of this shit. Some guy wrote me the other day and wrote me a letter about how I could get more listeners, and how I get more listeners is by having smaller citizen panels, and that. And then he went into this whole thing about, because I wrote him back and I said, look, my problem is I'm dealing with the technology that's available to me, and I use Skype, and I can't limit the size of a citizen panel. I can just hope no more than 9 or 10 people call me at the same time, okay? But I can't limit it. I don't have somebody here who's clearing it and hanging up on other people. And I said it's impossible to do that. And then trade out in the next half hour, have another 4 people. The way of trafficking that with me just sitting here doing it is impossible. And he wrote me and said, oh, well, there are things you can do today to be able to do that because people have things with. And I wrote him back and I said, shut the fuck up. I said, I invented the fucking podcast. And I know exactly what the realities are of it.
But it's not your format. See, the format of normal talk radio is one caller, one conversation.
Yeah.
They hang up, you go to the next one.
Right.
This is a different kind of format.
Right, and it's also a format. I mean, you were the other day brought up, well, maybe we should make it a Trump-free zone. And I was against that because my feeling is that this program, hello, John Peroulis. He's there somewhere.
Hi, everybody.
Wait a minute, we're waiting to get a picture on him. There he is. There he is. There he is. Anyway, what I was saying is that I don't want to make rules like that because that's not the idea of what I do here.
I just have a big piece of black tape I put on Phil's image so I don't have to look at him.
Yeah. You put it.
Hope it doesn't stick to the monitor.
Yeah, well, he doesn't move too. He doesn't move too much, so you can put it right over his eyes, and then he looks like.
Unless I wind up in a different square.
Yeah, so I mean, I tried to explain, say to this guy, come on, don't, I know the realities of the situation. I mean, the citizen panel was created out of desperation because I didn't want to have to pay to have the phone company install 4 phone lines. And then I said, well, I can use this thing called Skype. Hey, wait a minute, the Skype has video. Oh, hey, people can raise their hands when they're ready to talk. And I'll tell you, that makes it very usable. Okay? So, whatever.
Democracy Now!, Amy Goodman uses Skype a lot.
Yeah, but the problem with that is you have to look at Amy Goodman.
I know.
And listen to her.
Oh God! You know, one time I started to watch Amy Goodman, and I was good for about a month before I got so fucking bored with her that I just couldn't anymore. You know, so Ray Renati is joining us. There he is.
I can see all the Californians here haven't been watching the gubernatorial debate on TV tonight.
Who was goobing? Now
Who's goobing?
Yeah.
Oh, it's pretty funny because they got 3 Democrats and 2 mini Trumps on there. Oh my God!
Really?
You have a ball with these 2 guys.
Who are the debate?
Yeah, they're like mini Trumps. They're funny as hell.
There's 3 guys I thought that were Republican.
No, the other guy got kicked out because he was a
Nazi.
Nazi. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, well, he got kicked out at the down in San Diego this weekend. He was up there. He was an Aryan or something. They kicked him out.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, wait a minute. Is that right? No,
Yeah.
I'm being serious about this.
Look, Trump came out against the guy.
Forget
in
about
West Virginia.
forget about Trump for a moment.
No, but Blankenship.
Yeah, Blankenship. Yeah, he's out.
Blankenship, yeah.
Blankenship, the guy who was in jail, who was a mine owner or something, and he went to jail.
Oh, a murderer. Guy's a fucking murderer.
Yeah.
People died in line, and they said it wasn't keeping up the safety standards.
Yeah.
But this John Cox and this Travis Allen, they're funny as shit to watch.
Travis Allen is supposed to be pretty good.
Who's running for?
Oh, he's a piece of work. I'll tell you what.
As a Democrat, who's running out there?
Well, Gavin Newsom,
and
Villaraigosa, John Chung, and I'm going to vote for Delane Easton, the Secretary of Schools.
It's pretty interesting to see Chung there. He's kind of rising up between all of them.
Yeah,
it's pretty interesting.
Well, the top 2 Democrats, and I'm a registered Democrat. Ben,
I'm not trying to do Adolf Hitler. I'm trying to keep from sneezing.
I know.
Yeah.
You know, the top 2, Newsom and Villaraigosa, forget them. Newsom is a slime.
I don't think Newsom's,
I can't believe
I don't think Newsom's a slime at all.
Well, look what he did to his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
that's what
his best friend's wife.
Oh, that went on. That was I remember that was a story years ago, and I was almost still there.
Yeah. What's his name? One of Alan brought it up. No, the superintendent. What's her name? Brought it up.
Yeah, at Delane Easton.
Yeah, she brought it up, and then Alan said something about it. He had to defend himself because she brought it up about him. And then he brought it up about Newsom. Newsom brought it up about the mayor down in L.A. Then L.A. brought it up about somebody, the other guy, Cox. And they all sat there and went. And then Chung said, "Well, I didn't do anything."
Yeah, well,
the Attorney General of New York just resigned because he beat up 4 of his girlfriends.
Well, and now that's a good question. You see, I mean, it's interesting, Phil, that for a guy who's in law enforcement, you think nothing of the law because you just found the guy guilty without. Wait a minute.
I didn't say he was guilty. I said he resigned because he.
No, you said because he beat up some women. That's what you said. He did.
But
Number one, he's alleged to. Alleged to, and we don't know what the basis of those relationships were. Have you ever had an S&M relationship with a woman?
No,
I have. And at her request. Her request.
It doesn't sound like these gals requested it. They actually went to the
hospital. Both went with him for a year.
Yeah, but one or 2 of them went to the hospital.
Yeah, but they went with him for a year.
Okay.
So you have to ask certain questions about whether they were there because they were forced to, or because I'm not defending the guy. What I'm saying is he should be given his day in court, and he should be allowed the presumption of innocence until found guilty. You start out by coming on this program and going, "Oh, he beat up his girlfriends." No, he didn't. He's alleged to have beaten up his girlfriend.
He admitted to this type of relationship, but he claimed that it was consensual.
Yeah, well, there are those kind of relationships that are in fact consensual.
Okay, so he's an S&M dude. You know, what can I tell you?
Yeah, well, you know, and he maybe should have had every one of his dates
on him.
You know, I'm all I'm saying is I'm getting sick and tired of guys getting the short end of the stick on everything. I think innocence is very important to be assumed until proven guilty. And so therefore we never talk about it in terms of he did this, he did that. No, he is alleged to have done it. Yes,
I think
John.
Gave everybody else the stick.
Yes, John.
I think what I'm going to go with, safe bet, always believe the women.
No,
you haven't let us down, man.
Well, I disagree. I disagree with that. I absolutely yes, Ray.
Alex, I won't mention his name because maybe you know him and other. But there's a performer here he's an actor, a prominent one in the Bay Area, and about 25 or 30 years ago, a girl that he was teaching at American Musical Theater San Jose. I don't know if you remember them. They went out of business. Accused him of molesting her, and he always claimed he didn't do it, and he was fighting it for years. And finally, she came out 25 years later and said she was lying. And just that because she was angry with him.
But today, I don't think
it like damaged his career for 2 decades.
But
that's
today,
the exception, Ray. I think
I don't. Your notion, John, your notion that all women are to be believed is ridiculous.
Nowadays, I think so. I think it's a safe bet.
No, what do you mean? Now it's less of a safe bet because nobody's asking questions. They're just assuming the guilt of the person they accuse.
I think women were waiting for the opportunity to.
And a lot of women were waiting for the opportunity, and there were other women who were waiting for the opportunity to get even with a bad relationship, or to falsely accuse somebody. So because all they have to do is accuse them now, and the next thing you know, their career is in shambles, and they may have not done anything.
Well, a court of law found against Bill Cosby, who's been a scumbag for decades.
That's the one that we have. Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I even though I assume that I would believe personally that he was capable of all of this. Harvey Weinstein has claimed innocence on everything, okay? And in spite of the fact of what I may feel, this guy is due justice, okay? And unless somebody gets him into a courtroom and charges him with something, I think it's wrong of anybody to assume guilt, based on innuendo and non-criminal claims.
But then you have the court of Megyn Kelly, who's ready to cut everybody's dick off.
Oh, exactly. But I mean, this whole thing, this whole Me Too movement, has really turned into a Salem witch hunt.
Exactly.
And no, just the accusation gets you hung. Yes.
If we start to get in the habit of just believing everybody because of an accusation, then we start getting into the era of McCarthyism.
That's right.
And it's extremely dangerous. And it doesn't matter to me that 80% of the time they're telling the truth, or 90. That means 10 or 20% of the time someone's lying. And so
Just prove it.
Yeah, that's all we're saying.
And with our system, the way it's supposed to be done, you can't convict people.
We should have a woman on this show because right now it's biased. It's like 6 guys here. And
this is what I hear in the Bay Area all the time.
I think it.
Respect. 1 in 5 women are assaulted in this country.
1 in 5 women are assaulted in this country.
I think 1 in 4. Okay, it's high.
1 in 4. Or is it 1 in 5?
Let me check it out.
And where does this statistic come from? I'm not saying that women have not been assaulted, and I'm not saying that it hasn't been a common practice among certain people because they think they can get away with it in this society. And I agree that women for the longest time went on not being believed in their claims in spite of the fact that nobody would listen to them. And I agree with that being a fault of the society. But you can't go, when justice is concerned, you can't just go the other way and say, now all women are right. I mean, how you can make a claim like that, John, is ridiculous.
600 women are insulted every day in the U.S.
Did you say insulted?
Assaulted.
Assaulted.
Sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
One thing about the courts, you said, okay, Bill Cosby was convicted in the court, so now, therefore, he's guilty. But you look at a case like O.J. Simpson, and he was set free in the court. And
I guess O.J. Simpson was not guilty then.
Well,
well, I mean, you would have to presume innocence, Phil, if you're going to be an American. And you're going to believe in our justice system, which you were part of, but I feel uncomfortable thinking that a guy I know was a cop doesn't believe in justice.
Oh, I believe in justice, but I don't believe that all justice is fair. I don't believe justice is blind. And
yeah, right. I had an attorney friend who commented on the O.J. Simpson thing, and he said, if you have enough of money, you could buy reasonable doubt.
Well, the best description I heard of that trial is that the police managed to try and frame a guilty man, you know, and by framing a guilty man, they didn't get away with it. So
unfortunately, in the American justice system, it's not right or wrong. It's how much justice can you afford. If you can afford enough justice, you can.
And our justice system is wrong. But wouldn't you agree? Would anybody disagree with me that John saying that all women must immediately be believed is a wrong assumption?
No, I'm saying the majority of them.
The majority?
It's hard to say all.
Especially now.
You don't know. You just don't know. I mean, there are several cases of women who have made accusations against men that looked very suspiciously like she's trying to get even with them for something. Or she's trying to get something out of it.
There are people that have been in jail for 30, 40 years that were cleared through DNA evidence.
Yeah. But, if in a he said, she said situation, to say that you necessarily believe the she said first over the he said is ridiculous. Nobody should be given preferential treatment. The facts should be allowed to come forward and the proof to be offered.
Here's CNN worldwide. 1 in 3 women worldwide has experienced sexual
worldwide,
abuse or violence.
I would believe that worldwide.
That's CNN.
Well, I would believe that worldwide because in certain societies, women are treated like chattel.
The men are now. I know it's a smaller percentage, a much smaller, but men are also assaulted and harassed by women, and it almost never gets reported, even if they have to go to the hospital. Yeah. And women usually use violence more, really deadly violence, like guns and things like that against men. I mean, I just read an article and saw something on BBC.
Everybody gives me a bad time when I talk about the time that I was raped by a woman,
I was harassed at a job by my boss. She was the CEO of a software company. I was harassed numerous times. I went to, and I never reported it. I never would.
Well, I talk about the situation in which this woman basically raped me. She came over and she asked if she could stay the night because she didn't want to drive all the way back to San Jose. And I said, fine. I said, but I don't want to do anything because I just broke up with my girlfriend. I'm very depressed about that. And I'm not in for anything. In the middle of the night, suddenly I know she's on top of me. And, it's funny. What people say to me, well, yeah, but you're a guy, you're a guy and, you didn't have to have sex with her. And I went, did you ever know that you can get an erection even if you don't want one?
Yeah.
And that
you can get one from fear.
That a situation like that is enough to give you an erection, But I asked her when she was on top of me, having sex with me, please no. And she wouldn't do anything about it. And as a matter of fact, I started kind of crying, to be honest with you. I mean, it was very devastating to me.
In the old days,
so what do you say about that, John?
CNN further states.
Well, wait a minute. What do you say?
No,
forget about John. Forget about the statistics. Forget about the statistics. I asked you what you thought about my situation.
Well, anytime anyone their personal space is violated or abused, doesn't matter who you are.
Do you think we have the same statistics that you're reading to us available to us on men getting raped?
Yeah, just look at the Catholic Church.
No. Now you're diverting the question.
I could look that up too. I could look up, U.S. statistics on men getting raped. I'll do it right now.
Or being assaulted by women. Well,
we know it's underreported. They know that.
We know it's very underreported.
Yeah.
It's likewise for women. I'm sure that 340,000 figure of CNN is low.
You see, I guess what I'm saying, the point is that you can't convict someone without due process.
Of course.
Because it will ruin their life if it's a lie.
Yeah. But what's happening though, Ray?
I watched him go through hell. I mean, it's just.
What's dangerous right now, Ray, is it's just the mere accusation.
Yeah.
Can get people.
It used to be that when a woman would make a claim against a man for rape, they kept her identity secret so that she would not be...
They still do. They still do. If they want to.
Yeah.
If they want to, yeah. Which
they don't seem to do that for men. If the man is accused.
Well, men. I'm worried, and I have the great fear that men have lost a lot of rights in this country. As a result of all of this.
Here we go. This is from RAINN.org statistics. As of 1998, 2.78 million men in the U.S. had been victims of attempted or completed rape.
1998?
Since 1998, almost 3 million.
Since 1998.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, but we never see those statistics being made a big deal out of. And I mean, it is a problem for men as well as women. Women have underreported because women would not come forward in the old days. Now they're willing to come forward. And the trouble is that in a consensual situation, there are just two people involved. They are in a room alone. And it's a he said, she said situation. And how we prove it, we don't prove it by going overboard on one side or the other. The problem is for years if a woman came forward against a guy, we favored the guy rather than the woman, and that was terrible. But to then do the opposite now and favor the woman over the man and believe anything she says just out of hand is also wrong. What we want to do is we want to move that pendulum to the middle, not to the other side.
But I think in terms of the weight distribution or the axis is against men. I was raised in the Catholic Church, and look at what has come out in the Catholic Church. I mean, institutional deceit by the leaders of church hierarchy and sheltering. Cardinal Law from Boston was, he just passed away in Vatican, but he was given refuge and sheltered status there. He knowingly passed known sexual predators around the Boston Archdiocese, with full knowledge of what was going on.
Yeah.
And those are crimes against young men, and they should have been reported to the police, and they never were.
Yes,
there's a number of
there's that film, about that.
There's a number of Catholics on the panel. Did you, when you were a young boy, did you ever see or hear of some of your friends being abused by priests? And
I never did in my church. We never even heard of it. And my uncle was a priest, so maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe, I don't know. But these things get around, and I never heard about it in our church at all. You know?
Well, when I was at Bellarmine College Prep, I had 2 incidents happen to me that were not horrible, but they were definitely out of line. Mm-hmm. And I reported them twice to the school, and they have done nothing about it. And they asked us to report them. And the last time I reported them, because it happened again with somebody else, they ignored me.
Oh, right. Was it a teacher or a student?
Yeah, both were Jesuit. One was a Jesuit novice. He wasn't a priest yet, and he actually got kicked out of the Jesuits. And the other one was just a guy who was a Jesuit priest. He's dead now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was the physics teacher.
Huh. Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay, but they ignored me, and they defended the guy who was the physics teacher who was still living there. They defended them and said I must have imagined it. But the guy who had gotten kicked out of the Jesuits, they were behind me 100%. Oh yeah, he was terrible. That's one of the reasons we got rid of him. But the other guy was still living on campus, even though he wasn't teaching, and they defended him 100%. Said I was making it up.
Scott, you're Catholic, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Did you know of any of this going on when you were growing up, or was it something you just didn't pay attention to? Because
well, there was a rumor that the priest that came to our small town came down from a bigger city, Waterloo. It's not, it's like 200,000, and rumor has it he was moved there to be watched closer. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, he never did any. I was an older boy. I did the whole thing. He never. Of course, my dad would have, killed him probably. But.
Well, at my church when I was a kid, the youth group counselor, he wasn't a priest, but he would come up behind the boys and grab them when they weren't looking, and especially the teenage boys, and touch you inappropriately. And he did it to me once, and I suffered. I mean, I suffered for like a year, and I never told anybody. I was terrified going back to these youth group meetings, and I was only 13 years old.
Sure.
It was horrible. Yeah. And then my parents have a friend who was a priest up in the hills, and he's hiding in Ireland right now because he was accused of molesting 2 boys when they were younger. Of course, my parents don't believe he did it, although I think he probably, I'm guessing he probably did. And I think he's being hidden by the Catholic Church in Ireland.
Before all this stuff became so prevalent, I was a reserve working in sexual assault juvenile, and I got a phone call, and the guy said that he was molested by his priest like 25 years before. And I didn't really have any training or know how to handle it, so I just told him to call the district attorney's office and farted it off. But the more I think about it, this guy was opening up and and asking for help, and I sent him somewhere else because most likely because I didn't know how to deal with it.
Is there a time limit on these kinds of?
I think there is, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't think any of these crimes, sexual or otherwise, have a
statute of limitations.
I think they all have a sunset.
Oh, they definitely do.
The only crime that doesn't have a sunset is murder, I believe.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
But Cosby, they couldn't try many of those cases due to the fact that there was a sunset or a limit on it.
Now, do you feel uncomfortable with the fact that Cosby, it was a hung jury when the Me Too movement wasn't very strong, and the minute the Me Too movement happened, all of a sudden Cosby is found guilty?
That's what happens. Look at your friend. You had a couple of friends, Abby Hoffman, and then there's Roman Polanski. And at the timing was
Roman Polanski's not my friend.
I know, but Roman, it was timing. Your friend Abby said that he couldn't get a reasonable trial.
He didn't feel he was. I feel definitely framed. I know he was framed. He was framed for selling coke, And if he was a coke dealer, then how come I lent him several $100s a couple of weeks earlier because he didn't have it? He needed it. But anyway, the point is that I never believed that he was really a coke dealer, and I knew him well enough to believe that. But he jumped bail and just ran off into the wilderness for several years. And when I met up with him, he said the reason I did it, I was with him in hiding, and he said the reason I did it was because I knew I couldn't get a fair trial. But if I waited a couple of years, the heat behind this would die, and I could go back, give myself up, and that's what he did. If about, I don't know, he was in hiding for about 5-7 years, something like that,
Well, then Cosby will probably have to appeal his sentence when the mood of the country changes and pendulum starts to swing the other way.
Well, I think that's going to be a while. In the case of Abby Hoffman, you're talking about a singular case in which the district attorneys were trying to get some heat off of their bust and were very assiduous in their whatever. And by that time they had all gone on to other stuff. They didn't care about this, and he came back and he settled for a year. And I think that he got out after 6 months.
Yeah.
But and he gave himself up. He wasn't caught.
Well, I had a friend who got caught with a fairly large amount, I think a pound of marijuana. This is back in the late 60s.
And well, back in the late 60s, that wouldn't get you very high, so I don't think it's a crime.
But he, well, actually it was earlier 60s, but he went to Attica for 8 years.
Wow.
For that conviction. Now, he didn't serve 8 years, but he went to Attica and he was sentenced to 8 years. And he was a friend of mine when I was about 16.
What do we do for all those people, that got busted for pot and for selling pot and having a pound of pot and whatever, who spent 8 years in jail, and now it's legal and they would never get that time in jail. They wouldn't even come close to. A judge would say, "Don't bother me with this."
Okay. I think there is a judge in Oregon who wants to overturn all these marijuana.
It's great to overturn them, but I think that there's an additional factor here. I think they should get paid for the inconvenience of it all.
No, because it was illegal at the time.
Well, I don't buy that. Something's illegal at one point, but it's not illegal at another point, and therefore, whatever time they spent, they deserved.
Well, you got bootleggers like. Go ahead, Ray.
Ray?
No, it reminds me of the George Carlin joke where with the Catholic Church, where there used to be a mortal sin to eat meat on Friday, and then they made it not a sin anymore, and he said there's still guys doing time in hell on the meat wrap. Yeah.
I never liked those fish sticks.
Yeah, I know. Fish sticks again.
But I just wonder about those people who spent time in jail for pot. That was one of the most victim. That was one of the most victim. Oh, I got to tell you something. You want to talk about the fake press, okay? Tonight I'm watching CBS Evening News with Lester Holt.
Is this the $500,000 thing?
What?
The oligarch that they're saying gave Trump's attorney $500,000.
No. Will you wait until I tell the story before you try and tell me what story I'm trying to tell?
All right.
So he's doing his show from Colorado tonight. Each night he's in a different city. So they do stories about that town, that area. So he does a story about the police and people driving high on marijuana.
Yeah.
And it is the most skewed story I've ever seen. Because, for instance, he did not ask the cop the most obvious question you would ask. They say, well, do you bust a lot of people who are driving high on pot? And they go, oh, yes, more now than ever before. Oh, yes. But he never asked him the other question, is it less for alcohol than it used to be? You know, and then he never brought up that there was an Oregon study. That's one of the most classic studies that was done years and years and years ago about driving under the influence of marijuana, and that an experienced marijuana user could drive under the influence of marijuana because it's one of the few drugs you can compensate 100% for the effects of.
I tell you, that one time I had a puff.
No. No, I didn't. Did I just say that, or did I say an experienced user?
Right. Well, I wasn't.
Okay.
I knew
people can, if they have a task to do. They studied this for driving and everything else. The task to do, and they're an experienced user. They've used pot for years, and they know what it's like, and so on and so forth. It's one of the few drugs we have that you can compensate almost 100% for and do the task at hand.
Well, some drunks can function also. I've pulled over and
not the point
arrested.
I'm trying to make, Phil. The point I'm trying to make is that Lester Holt is a fucking douche.
Oh.
Because he never asked the right questions in this story, and he was just going to get a certain kind of story, and that was the one he was fishing for, and he wasn't going to ask any questions that would take it somewhere else. The obvious question is, if you now have people smoking pot, number one, do they drive better under the influence of it, even though you stop them and all of a sudden you smell, the car smells like a skunk farm, or do you? Or what? How does this differ from the arrests you used to have with alcohol? And are there less alcohol arrests and more of the marijuana? And in which case, it's just inebriation that you're busting, and it doesn't matter. There's no increase. But he didn't ask about an increase in DUIs.
He also said it was harder to convict too because they don't have a good test.
That's the one thing he said. It's harder to convict because they didn't have a blood test. Yeah,
it goes further than that, though, too, because it depends on the strain of marijuana. I mean, if it's relatively low in THC, the psychoactivity is not going to even be very significant.
Because that one guy they pulled over had only smoked a half a joint or something.
Yeah, and it just depends on how much THC. It depends on your body's reaction.
Actually, I think you can't do an immediate test on whether they're high off that drug or not. However, you can take a blood test and find out if they have THC in their system, but it takes 3 weeks to get out of your system, so that wouldn't hold up very well in court either. That was the one point they made that was interesting, is that there's no tried and true way that we can give people a test to see if they're high on pot.
Right. Now, I'm thinking of Up in Smoke with Cheech and Chong. If I was the cop, I would arrest those two.
Some of the things that we used to use was called nystagmus. Nystagmus is the involuntary eye bounce. So you have them if they're high, you have them look at a pen and you move it at an angle.
Yeah, could you use that test in court?
Not anymore.
No. Then there's a reason why. Because it's fruity science.
Right, but
that's my new term for fake science, fruity science.
It was a little bit more probable cause to ask more questions and to have them do more tests, even though you couldn't necessarily use it in court anymore. They used to use it,
but they have these what they call what do they call them? Drug. These guys that go through the classes and they call them drug recognition enforcement officers or whatever they have. I went through those same classes when I was, for the DOT because I had to take those classes because I had truck drivers working under me, and I had to recognize those same things. And I went through 3 days, 8-hour classes, and I had to be able to recognize it. They're almost the same damn classes, So I had to be able to recognize somebody that was quote unquote high before they went out in a truck and started hauling hazmat all over the road.
How did you recognize if they were high on pot?
You couldn't. I mean, you could guess, but that's all you could do. And then say, okay, well, you go in and take a piss test. That's all you could do.
Yeah, but the piss
test, the same type of thing.
All the piss test will do is tell whether they have pot in their system, and they could have smoked it 3 weeks ago, and it would be in their system.
Exactly, and that's the same thing that the cops are using today. Maybe there's a little more sophistication to it, but it's the same thing. It's a guess.
I would just think that you could give a pee test, and there would be some way in which you could find out from that pee test how long ago they had gotten the most high. In other words, see how much the concentration is because as weeks go on, it's got to diminish. You know what I'm saying?
Really, I don't know that you can, because when I go get my meds from my doctor, they randomly take a piss test. They took one for me today just to get my meds.
Yeah.
And, I've gone in there, I've taken a puff, and I go, and they say they're going to take a piss test. And I go, oh, crap. I smoked 2 weeks ago, and it doesn't show up. They don't deny me my meds. So I'm going, okay, well, I guess it worked. I don't know.
Hi, Renee. By the way, let me
metabolizes everything differently too.
Yeah.
Nobody metabolizes anything in the same way as another person. And so you really don't have any idea how long it's been.
Yeah.
Hey, Renee, are you on the Big Island?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Yeah, she's on the Big Island. She's on the Big Island.
Have you heard from the who's the other guy over there on Hilo?
Yeah, we heard from him on
James.
Friday.
You heard from him?
We heard from him on Friday. Yeah.
Okay. We're all fine. Anybody want an update?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure.
I used to own land.
But I let's get an update in a second, because I just wanted to continue with this a second.
Yeah.
You should.
It's just they should be able to scientifically come up with a test that tells, like, did you just do it within the last couple of hours? Because is there the strength in your body of that amount? Because it's got to get weak after a couple of weeks, even though it's still in your system.
You would think.
So I mean, but I mean, I just again, we have let me say this: we have a government that is completely out of whack with what the states are doing. The states are legalizing marijuana at an amazing clip, okay? And the government is still saying, we won't let you take money into your banks from these pot places, and we're still going to arrest people if we want to, and blah, 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 blah. And it creates a disunity in the country where you don't know what you can do, what you can't do, and it's pretty terrible what's going on. And,
just thank Phil for that.
Huh?
You can thank Phil for that.
Yeah,
it's
I guess.
delightful.
Yeah.
It's a It's a state right thing.
It is a state right thing, but somehow the Republicans don't believe in states' rights until they want to go in and tell a state they can't do something.
I thought the nanny state was created by the Democrats.
No.
We're not talking about nanny state, Phil. We're talking about...
You want to make sure that they don't hurt themselves and they're not smoking this marijuana.
No, that's what you're doing by going into a state and telling them they can't smoke that marijuana. When Jeff Sessions says he's still going to prosecute marijuana,
So 2 points was point number one, some states and or counties have already said, if you're in jail for pot, excuse me, that's the old people saying it. If you're in jail for weed, we're letting you out. We don't want you in there for weed anymore. And so now they're not even putting people in for weed, and they're releasing the people. The problem is exactly what Alex is saying. Not the entire United States, because just last year, some black person in New Orleans, young black man, got 30 years for 30 ounces of pot.
Yeah. And
30 years for 30 ounces of pot. That's disgusting.
What are you doing there? What is Ray doing there?
Marijuana is a Schedule 1 drug, same as heroin.
Look at what Ray's doing.
They've got to change that so that researchers can research. They don't have these rules in Israel. Israel is the leader in the health effects of cannabis now.
Really?
Oh yeah. The Israelis are like way ahead of everybody.
So we should be looking to them.
Well, they should get that fucking Netanyahu high.
Yeah, right. That might be a good start.
I was just talking to a friend of mine who's in an aged home. He's 85.
Yeah.
And he says he was in pain. He had a neck operation, and he got cannabis oil, some sort of pill that you take. And he says, I said, is it making a difference? And he says, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Marijuana is a very medicinal thing. Listen, I want to go to another subject because I was doing a little promo for this show, and saying that we would talk about it, and I really think we should. But first, let's get a quick update on what's happening on the Big Island and their volcano that hates them.
Well, first off, Pele, and Madame Pele is going to do what Madame Pele wants to do. So the good news is that every other island is fine. So if you're coming to Hawaii, don't worry about it. Every Kauai, the Big Oahu, Maui looks really good this week. So everybody's fine. Even on this island, on this end, we're all good. So the only thing really being affected is the area that horrifically affected is the area south of Hilo and to almost to the point. That's where the volcano is. So we've heard people talking about people canceling, not wanting to come. You know what? You just go to the other side of the island. This is a very large island, and so there's at least a week's worth of stuff to do without having to go to the Puna area.
Right. And next time you come to Hawaii and think about living there, do as Renee did. Don't build your home near a volcano. Okay?
The whole island's a volcano.
Yeah, well... Yeah. We've just been joined by somebody named Todd. Is this somebody we know?
Yes. How you doing? Long time no speak. Todd Moore, the truck driver.
Oh, right. How are you, Todd? Good talking to you. I wanted to bring this up. You can join in on the discussion anytime you want to, Todd. Just yell out the words Todd. Today, the president did something, which the Iran deal.
Oh my God!
We are not just pulling out. That would be a bad term. Reneging is the really legal term for this. In that we are going back on a promise that we made, and this does not speak well to the rest of the world. Within his own ranks, Mad Dog Mattis doesn't think it's a good idea. The head of the CIA. Former head of the CIA, is now our Secretary of State. He said he thinks they've been complying just fine. Everybody seems to be disagreeing with him except Benjamin Netanyahu, and there was one other person somewhere. Otherwise, we have just lost our fucking credibility and our word. How are we going to make peace in this world and make deals in this world if nobody will feel we'd follow through on them?
But, you know, we've done this before. Baby Bush broke the ABM treaty. You know, just said, hey, we're pulling out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's the same crowd that are calling the shots behind the stupid puppet that calls himself a president. He's a dumb shit. Well, he doesn't know any of these things.
That real downside of all of this is they can start ramping up doing nukes now.
Yeah.
Yes, Phil.
This was a promise that Trump made on the campaign trail.
That's right.
What's more important, the promise to his minions of a minority in this country, or our word to the rest of the world and our promise to the rest of the world?
I understand that
party before country.
I understand that there are consequences that might have to be paid. The Israelis are already preparing for an invasion. They're opening up. They've
always been prepared for an invasion.
Yeah, well, anyway.
Jeff, you've been there, haven't you?
Twice.
They're always prepared for an invasion, aren't they?
Yes. What Trump did is what he said he was going to do. It's no surprise. Why is everybody surprised?
Well, because we thought maybe he'd come to his senses once he saw the reality of the situation and had world leaders begging him not to do it.
That was the deal.
No, just keeping promises that you make while you're running for president and don't have full knowledge of the promise you're making. You get into the White House, you learn things you didn't know before, and apparently he's learned nothing.
At the end of his term, when he walks away 8 years later and tells everybody, I fucked up everything, but I kept my promise. That's going to be good.
Yeah.
Right now, his popularity is the highest it's been.
Yeah, now it's a 3. It's a 3 instead of a 4, instead of a 2.
Between 44, depending on the survey, it's between 44 and 50%.
How can you defend that idiot?
Fucked everything up. I promised you. I fucked everything up, and I kept my promise.
Okay.
But I kept my promises.
Everybody needs to repeat after me. This is the mantra now. Party before country.
Well, that's the Democratic.
Everything that he does is going to be party before country.
Well, I would modify that and say class before everything else. You know, we're talking about billionaires and rule by corporations. That's what the United States has become. Yeah. You know, just like you could break a fucking corporate contract, that's the way.
But how is he going to go to? For instance, right now, the Chinese are kind of bothered by this decision by the United States. How's he going to go into North Korea, try and make a deal on denuclearization, which is essentially the same kind of treaty, and have them sit there and say, "Well, you're good to your word." No.
Yeah, good point, Alex. That's really a good point. Exactly. Yeah.
But he didn't. He kept his promise to his idiots out on the stump. You know.
Yeah.
He couldn't even keep his promises to his wife, his wedding vow.
See, Stormy Daniels, you know, those are pretty big tits.
I'm actually starting to feel sorry for Melania.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Ray Renati.
Does anyone know why?
Not really,
but
I.
Why he gets to make this decision unilaterally like this? Why does he get to make? Why?
Yeah, because the Republicans are just bending over because
he's a fucking Trump.
No, but I mean, so it would take the Congress to stop him. Is that what it would be?
Probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're not going to do that. And he knows it, so he's just going to go ahead and make.
We've been joined by Jack Bishop, by the way. Todd.
Hello there.
Todd. Are you there, Todd?
Yes.
Do you have anything you want to say about the subject?
Oh man, I don't even know where to begin, sir. Oh, God, Almighty, you gave me a lot. Thing I would say with Trump and what he wants to do, and I think really he's just trying to listen to Israel, and he's trying to do what he wants to do and try to. That's why I can put it is, you know, you got all the Stormy Daniels and stuff. He's trying to smoke screen. He's like a showman. So he's trying to showman. He tried to do it with North Korea and realized that might have been a bad idea. So he's trying to do it with somebody else.
Yeah. Yes, Jack.
Hey, I want to know, when are the Iranians going to start calling for regime change in the United States? Last week, Trump was calling for regime change over there.
They've been calling for it for years.
No, they haven't.
Death to Israel.
When? Put a date on it. When, Phil? When?
Since they took over the embassy. But Alex has a full house.
Oh, that was more than almost 40 years ago.
Damn.
Phil, that was almost 40.
I hate doing that math.
Years ago.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if it was 40 years ago.
And you know when we blew it on that, because you had an administration that, a dishonest administration elected by dishonest Republicans.
Are you saying that Reagan was dishonest?
Hell yes! And
oh my God, he was totally dishonest.
You've ever had?
Hey, if you want to talk about broken treaties, the U.S. government made 500 treaties with Native Americans, and guess how many they broke? All of them, all 500.
I wish I had
that too.
I wish I had a native Hawaiian here. They could probably, get into that too. They fucked these people over.
The Queen got screwed by CNH Sugar and the Marines.
And the Marines standing outside her. It's a very famous photo.
Yeah.
100 days. She was a badass.
The Iranians need to be calling for regime change in this country, bringing freedom and democracy back to this great country.
I heard a thing that they said 90% of the Iranians aren't happy with the way the government is being run, that it's the mullahs in Iran that are being so hard-lined.
Well, actually, what I hear is even worse, though, is that they really don't like the current prime minister they have, or whatever they call the head of their country, because of these deals he made with the United States. And this may actually get him pushed out. So we have a much unfriendlier person at the helm of that country.
On the contrary, you may have a much friendlier person.
No.
Why?
A better.
Why? The very people that want him out are the people that want to replace him with somebody who's more of a hardliner.
Yeah.
Don't go. Yeah, that's this. I'm talking facts here, Phil.
Yeah. Well, that's the 10% that are the hardliners that are in charge.
Yes,
right
but the fact is, they're going to get a grip on the country because they have not been very happy with Rouhani, is his name, I think, who's the prime minister of Iran. And he has taken, a let's get along with the West attitude, and they don't like that. And this is their excuse now to throw him out and install their own guy who's going to be a hard ass. Okay,
you guys,
and then they're going to say, you
reneged
on your deal? Okay, then we're reneging on the deal, and we're going to start building these weapons again.
Some of you might disagree with me, but I think the balancing key in this whole situation is Russia. I am happy to see Russia involved in the Middle East now, especially that hotbed region of Syria and Iran. They're going to keep the peace. They did in Syria when the first.
Wait a minute, the Russians kept the peace. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold on a second.
The Russians.
Wait a minute a second. The Russians are making Syria a better place. Have you seen what's happening over there?
The Russians are keeping a balance of power and a stability in that region.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's how
Assad and power.
Are we talking about this? Are we talking about the same country?
Syria that's coming out by the
John,
US
are we
press.
talking about the same country?
Yeah, we are.
Oh well, because the Syria that I see doesn't look like it's doing very well.
Hey, I'm not a Putin lover. My buddies in Greenpeace were imprisoned for 6 months on the Polar Pioneer a few years
but
ago.
the Americans did the same thing to you. So, what the hell. Jeff, did you have anything to say about this? You have anything to say about this? I just wanted to draw you in the conversation.
I don't have. I mean, I'm very disappointed what Trump is doing or claiming to do, or ultimately I'm going to do it in two months or whatever. I think it's a bad deal. I think it's a reasonable, good deal to keep what we have.
Yeah.
And anybody who's not doing that is crazy.
Well, our Secretary of State, the new one, it was with the CIA, said they were living up to the agreement. He says they were living up to the agreement. Mad Dog Mattis says they were living up to the agreement. Our old Secretary of State, because
John
they
Kerry?
changed, Tillerson, also said they were living up to their
Right.
part of the bargain. So the only person that doesn't think they were living up to the part of the bargain is Donald Trump and his little suck-off pal Netanyahu. Yes,
Jack. Kerry was
Jack.
very willing to accept the relationship as it exists today.
Yeah. Jack?
And what does this do to our credibility around the world as far as being a diplomatic party?
How do you go into the meeting with Mr. Kim Jong-un and have him to expect that anything you say you will live up to? Tell me how he's going to do that, Phil.
Yeah, I'll tell you how he's going to do it.
Yeah.
He's going to show them how strong we are, and he's going to show Kim Jong-un.
And that's going to scare him?
Show him how strong we are. Step out into the Rose Garden with 2 9mm and blows each other's son of a bitchin' heads off. That's the real American way. It's time to bring back dueling like we used to have.
Yeah. Hamilton, Burr.
Yeah, most of the Western world has said that they want to keep the agreement in place because people don't like change. What Trump is saying is, hey, it was a bad deal.
And what was
who are you reading from, Phil? Who are you reading
and what's
from?
Plan B?
Who? What?
Oh, they don't have a plan B.
Who's
It was like healthcare.
Who's talking? Who? Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Phil.
was so bad about the deal,
Phil. Whose talking points are you reading right now?
None.
You were looking down. You were reading something, Phil.
I wasn't reading anything.
Limbaugh's.
No, I wasn't reading anything.
Fox News.
Yeah.
Fox News. So number one, if I may, Ray said, "What's the plan B?" They didn't have a plan B for healthcare, and they railed about it for 7 years, and they still didn't, when they got in charge, have a plan B. There is no plan B, Ray. This is not. It's just not. They don't have any good ideas. He's just the big jackass like we think he is.
Trump believes in power, strength through power.
False power. False power.
Where does that get the world, Phil? Where does strength through power get the whole damn world? Never forget this, my fellow American. The only country with a history of using atomic weapons is which one?
Hey, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have the doomsday clock at 2 minutes before midnight. And I'm scrolling down, it was 12, 10, 9, 3, 84, 90, it was 10 minutes, 91, it was 17, 98, 9 minutes, 2002, 7, 2007, 5, 2010, 6, 2012, 5, 2015, 3, 2016, 3, now, today, 2018, 2 minutes.
But
what is that?
The doomsday clock from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Carpet deal to carpet your bomb shelter.
So, John,
I don't believe that there's going to be any atomic war, because I believe that Trump is going to make sure that these guys do not develop an atomic system.
How is he going to do that? How is he going to do that? Is he going to go out himself and like?
He's going to put sanctions on them to the point that
they'll put all those sanctions on us, and we won't have trade with anybody in the world.
We won't get pistachios from Iran. And, it's going to hurt the rug business too. Area rugs are going to be going up in price. You won't be able to get those.
History of aggression in this country. With our history of aggression in this country, smaller powers are going to say, hey, to at least come to the table, I better have something that puts a mushroom cloud over a city.
Yeah, so they're going to all start looking.
And all you're doing is pissing people off. People don't just stand down just because we're the big, strong people on the block. They fight harder.
False power.
They did for Reagan, but
they didn't stand down for Reagan. Who stood down for Reagan?
He bankrupted the USSR.
No, he didn't bankrupt the USSR.
Afghanistan did.
Star Wars.
Exactly, Afghanistan did. Very good, Scott.
Nobody's going to drop an atomic bomb on anybody else. If anything, what a nuke will be used for in today's world is a stratosphere burst. Blow out every single fucking satellite spinning around the world, including the International Space Station and everything. Korea can do that. Other small nations can do that. That will screw up everything more than blowing up somebody's city or anything.
Well, there goes your cell phone communication.
It's going to be
the show.
It's going to be suitcase.
Talking about an EMP.
What did you say? Wait a minute. Todd said something. What, Todd?
Sorry, he's talking about an EMP.
EMT burst. Yeah.
EMT burst.
Yeah,
well, EMP.
Plus it's going to kill. It's going to kill every satellite in orbit. Every satellite.
That means your banking.
Yeah.
There's banking. Yeah. There's your phone system. There's just your medical records. Your EMS dispatchers. We're all going to be just floating.
And that presupposes that everybody's going to play by that rule.
Yeah. What were you saying, Phil?
You did want to go back to a simpler time.
Yes.
No. That's the white males wishing that. The rest of us are forward thinking.
What do you mean white males? What kind of sexist remark is that?
You know what? I should have said
that's what those women do.
White males is what I really
that's those uppity women.
Yeah, bitch ass.
And you mean Jack is fine because he's black? You're making that distinction?
Well, Jack didn't vote for Trump.
Well, neither did I.
Really, he voted for Trump?
No. Jack did not vote for Trump.
No, Jack did not vote for
There's
Trump.
another black guy here too.
Hey, and be sure and catch the other black guy in about 7 minutes with his own program.
Yeah.
There you go.
Trump had a speech today, and he had these black guys standing behind him that had T-shirts on that said "Black Guys for Trump." You know.
Hey, their black card got canceled right then and there.
Oh, did you see that?
Yes, it did.
That
You know what
silk and
I do is sometimes I turn on Fox and Fox News, and this big fat black guy who's doing Fox News and speaking the right wing agenda. And I'm saying to myself, didn't somebody just slap this guy once and say, "Hey, you're not working in your best interest, asshole."
He's an economist, isn't he?
He got a job. He's happy.
That's the problem. Is exactly what he just said. He's got a job. He doesn't care about the responsibility.
And let us.
I was born a poor black child.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right.
Seriously,
right.
boy, you took that
Really?
Michael Jackson turn really quickly.
Hey, you could have been an understudy.
No, but
for
his
Steve
problem
Martin in
was-
The Jerk, Ray.
The problem
Yes.
was when Ray went into the sun, he bleached.
Hey,
No, we're not getting. Okay, so no talk about anybody's special purpose. That's cut off.
Right.
I got to ring the bell for that one for Renee.
What that I did a movie reference?
Yes.
He's got little belly rings, folks, on his show.
You know what? How is it that like some people Trump makes them feel secure and safe, and then others of us Trump makes us feel scared shitless?
It's the fake media.
No, seriously, no. Without just saying it's the fake media. I mean, really, what is that psychological? What is going on there? I mean, because Phil feels secure with Trump in office, and the rest of us feel like really scared about him.
Do you want a serious answer or bullshit?
Yeah, serious. I'm serious. I'm being serious.
There are always people who think with their reptilian brain that
That's not serious.
that functions from a position of fear.
That's not serious. A serious answer would be that there are some people that don't believe that Trump is on the right path, and there are others that do. And you're always going to have.
I think if you
and those that think he's on the right path are troglodytes.
Yeah, well, draggers, as we call them on my program.
Yeah.
We used to call them racist too, also.
Racist,
Those are the talking points that the DNC has given you guys, and those are the ones that
I get my talking points. They send them to me every day. I get this whole long list from the DNC.
We telepathically are linked, and it comes in our coffee cup every morning.
And every Trump supporter I know, except for maybe you, Phil, is definitely a racist, whether they want to admit it or not. And if I know them well, I know they're definitely racist, even if they won't say they are.
Right.
I know from their behavior.
I know them well.
And they're racist, almost always.
Well,
yeah, you know what? Sometime we should
be considered racist. People can say they don't like the color of your shirt, and they're saying that that's a prejudice.
If you're wearing New Balance, I know exactly what you are.
No, I wear Monofestos, I think.
Yeah, a $400 pair of shoes.
Well, what if you're sagging?
I wear anything.
Like Phil, what if your pants are sagging?
At my age, I wear anything that's comfortable.
I know why people's pants sag now. Their diapers are full. Believe me,
that's why yours sag.
Anyway, hey, listen, it's time to go, folks. The theme is a running, and so has Jack Bishop's got to go. So I'm going to hang up on you, Jack, so you can go do your show.
Dude.
Okay, he's up next with Amy Fisher. No, Amy Manuel.
And Joey Buttafuoco.
Yes. You had a full house tonight.
I know we did. I know. Yeah. I feel real good about that. Anyway, I want to thank Phil Meyer for being with us. Thank you, Phil. I want to thank Jeff Stein for being with us, and John Paroulas for being with us, and Renee. I'm glad the volcano didn't get you. Scott Boddicker, thank you so much. You've been real good tonight. And Kevin, always a pleasure to have you here. Ray Renati, all of you. I love you. And Todd, call more often, okay?
Who's the phone guy?
I will definitely try.
Yeah, it's Todd. Anyway.
Tell him to call Jack Show.
Yeah, you can call Jack Show after we're over here. Anyway, everybody, give a big wave goodbye to our audience, and we'll see you hopefully again tomorrow. That's our Citizens Panel, folks, and that's our show for tonight. Thanks to the Citizens Panel and to all the members of it. And, go over to gabnet.net and you can find out how you can also be a member of the Citizens Panel. We would love to have you do that. In the meantime, Jack and Amy are next, and then right after that at midnight, at 1 o'clock in the morning, rather, Eastern Daylight Time, it's Connections, and then we'll be back here again tomorrow night after Damien and the Chaplain and the Exchange at 10 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Same station in life. In the meantime, should you happen upon her, tell her I love her, okay? Bye.